Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Covert Knits podcast. My name is Abigail Covert. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is episode 16 of my podcast where I talk all about my knitting and yarn adventures. I'm coming to you today on it's August now, August 2nd from Omaha, Nebraska. And I just want to take a moment to thank all of my returning viewers for coming back and for any new viewers. We are over the 300 subscriber mark on YouTube, which is astronomical to me. I never thought that anything like that would happen. So thank you again for all of those of you who have subscribed, hit that like button. It is very rewarding as a podcaster. So thank you again. You can find me online as at covert_knits on Instagram and covert knits on Ravelry. I'll have put that down here for you. You can also reach me by email at omahaknitnight@gmail.com. So if you have any questions, those are all the places that you can reach out to me. Or you can always leave a comment here on YouTube. So let's jump right in. I have quite a bit to chat about today, surprisingly. I will talk about what I'm wearing. We'll talk about my 2 finished objects I have to share. I've got 3 whips, and then we're going to chat a little bit about a new podcast to me, and we're also going to chat a little bit about Knitting Mojo, what it is, and why it takes a hike sometimes. Before we jump into all of that, I do want to touch a little bit on accessibility in our community here, the knitting community. The knitting and crocheting community. It's been a hot topic online on Instagram, both because of accessibility with Ravelry and monetary accessibility with the cost of yarn. So those are 2 kind of separate issues, but definitely all rolled into the accessibility. We were all waiting for Ravelry to pull their heads out of wherever and fix their issues with their website that is causing so many physical and eye strain, seizure, migraine issues because of their new website. They did issue an apology just this past week. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm still mulling it over. I know that the apology is one of the things that I, as a user, was requesting, and other people as well, and they have done it. I'm not sure that it really is a true apology, but it's one step in the right direction. I know that just a few weeks ago, all we were saying was that we want Ravelry to fix the issue. We all love Ravelry, but I do feel like in the interim, they've kind of burned a few bridges. So I'm not really sure how Ravelry will be used by me going forward. Right now, it's still the best place to search for patterns. And I have been doing project pages there, but I did start a blog. It's not up yet for public view, but I intend to use the blog to kind of detail project notes and final finished object pictures, things like that. So I'm hoping to get that up, and it will kind of be in conjunction with the podcast. I will eventually post show notes there as well as in the down bar below. So it'll have multi-uses, but it was kind of, the idea came to me because I'm not really sure how much longer I'll be putting all of my project pages on Ravelry. So that's where we are Ravelry wise. Yarn cost and accessibility in the knitting community is a very important issue. I truly feel like indie dyed yarns are worth the money that we spend on them, but I also very much understand that they are not in the price range of a lot of people. And I am fortunate enough that now I can purchase indie dyed yarns when I would like. I'm a unpartnered person without children, so that has a fairly steady job. So I have the luxury of doing that. I understand that that's not the case, but I also understand that there are lots of really good, less expensive options out there. And even if they're not good, they're still an option. You know, even if they are, you know, what some would deem scratchy or whatever, there's still a great option if you really want to be able to do this craft. And I think that they're worth it. I have a sweater's quantity of, you know, an acrylic wool blend back there. I have an acrylic baby blanket on the needles over here. I have a sweater that's knit out of an acrylic cotton blend. I have a sweater out of an acrylic wool blend, all that were inexpensive. I have quite a few sweaters quantities of yarn from places like Knit Picks that are a little bit on the they're really good yarns, but at a less expensive cost. And I use them all the time because sweaters quantities of indie dyed yarn are really expensive. So I think probably 5 of my sweaters quantities back there are all Knit Picks sweaters quantities. So I just want to make sure that people understand. I know as I sit here and I show you all these beautiful things that not everybody can afford them. I totally understand that. And I wish there was a better option, but I do think that the artisans and crafters that make all of these products deserve the money that they're asking for them. So there's got to kind of be a happy balance. I'm not sure what that is, but I just want to make sure that I'm mentioning that here on the podcast. So I know it sounds, I feel a little hypocritical when I say that with this wall of beautiful hand-dyed yarn behind me, but that's not everything in my stash, and that hasn't always been my ability to do that. For the first 15 years of my knitting, I couldn't buy all of this yarn. I had maybe 2 or 3 skeins at a time of indie dyed yarn because I had to save up and I had to plan for it. And I still have to plan for it. But I'm in a different place monetarily now, so I have that luxury, and I understand that that's a luxury. So anyway, that was my little, for lack of a better word, soapbox talk for today. So we just need to be more aware of accessibility in the knitting community. I want every person of every level, ability level, and financial level. I want every person to be able to craft in this community if they want to. So that's just something to think about. Okay. So let's move on to what I'm wearing. I am wearing my Black Lives Matter t-shirt that I got. It was a fundraiser over through Neighborhood Fiber Company. I'll stand up so you can see the whole thing. There we go. It was designed by Franklin Habit, who's a cartoonist and knitwear designer in the community, specifically for Neighborhood Fiber Company, and they did this. I know I showed this a few weeks ago. So the charity is the NFC Momentum Fund, which donates all of the money to Black-led or marginalized people organizations in the Baltimore area, which is where Neighborhood Fiber Company is located. So I purchased this. I have a bag. I'll show you that in a little bit because I'm using that for one of my projects. And I also got the enamel pin. I know that the bags are sold out on the website, but I believe they did have a few extra shirts and enamel pins that were on the website last time I checked. You'll have to go out there to check and see if they're still available. The links for everything I talk about, again, are in the show notes, which is in the down bar here on YouTube. Okay, so that's what I'm wearing. 10 minutes in and haven't talked about yarn. Okay, 2 finished objects today. The first one is my Sockhead Slouch hat. Sockhead Slouch. Yep, I did it right this time. Okay. This is going to get super blown out. There it is. This is my Funfetti yarn. This is my Mary Anthe yarns in 8515 superwash merino nylon. Colorway is Kaleidoscope. So Sockhead Slouch hat is a free pattern by Kelly McClure. And it's designed to use up essentially a whole skein, depending on what size you knit, of fingering weight yarn, maybe sock yarn, that you maybe don't want to wear on your feet. So I saw this yarn. A friend of mine in one of my knit nights had this yarn, and I loved it so much. But I have a history of knitting beautiful light colored cream or white yarn for socks, and then they turn into disgusting black blobs. So I love this yarn too much to do that. So see if you can see the crown there. So I decided to make the Sockhead Slouch hat. I've done this hat one other time. And I did the medium size. I used US 2.5s. I think it's a US 2.5. It's a 3mm was the size I used for both the ribbing and the stockinette. I did 4 inches of ribbing, which is what the pattern calls for, and then 8 inches of stockinette before I did the crown decreases, which is the medium size. That's exactly as how it's written. So I will probably wear this with the brim rolled up, and it's still super slouchy. So there we go. This is for me. It is not a gift. And that is finish number 1. Very excited to have this off the needles. I actually have yarn for another one of these already wound up and ready to go, that I think probably will be a gift. But this is great. This was great knitting for my knit nights and things like that, because it's just mindless, either ribbing or stockinette. And then this, just real quick, is all I had left of the cake. Definitely enough to put some in my sock yarn cozy memory blanket, which I haven't touched in probably a year, and maybe do a little bit as like a stripe in a scrappy sock. So that is that project. My second finished object is my In the Light shawl by Day-Crosier. This is also the second one of these that I have knit. Let's go here. I knit the fringe version. This is a paid for pattern. And there's 2 options, a fringe and a non-fringe. I knit the fringe. I knit this out of Enamel Pins. And the colorways are Envy is the green, Rubber Ducky is the yellow, and Nude Scene is the cream. It is on their Show Stealer base, which is their 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon. And this first one I knit of these out of a different yarn, I ended up running out of the yarn and had to finish off the fringe in one of the other colors. This time I didn't have that problem. I did have quite a bit left of each skein. I think I have enough left to do child size socks or a child size hat. So I might be doing that as a gift. So I haven't weighed what I have left. I definitely have the least of the cream, but I have quite a bit of the green and the yellow. So I love this pattern. I have yarn caked up to do another one. It'll probably be a little while before I cast that on, only because I kind of felt the fatigue of knitting 2 of these so closely together. They're a great pattern. They're lots of fun. Very mindless knitting. It's an easily memorizable repeat. I love the fringe, but as I was going along, I felt a little bit stifled because I have already knit one so recently. So I do have the yarn wound up, and I probably will knit another one here shortly. This is for me. I'm a huge Oregon Ducks fan. I know I've said it before. This will be my fancy Ducks shawl for, fancy events. I have no idea what that means. But, thought it would be nice to have an Oregon themed shawl. I love it. This yarn is so soft. It's so squishy. Also, this is my entry into the Needles at the Ready podcast. They are doing a Let's Hear It for the Boys knit along, which is a knit along designed to showcase designers and yarn dyers and patterns written for male identifying people. So since I use Lady Min Fiber Arts, this qualifies. So I've got to get that. I took FO pictures this morning, so I'm hoping to get that posted over in their Ravelry group soon. So that is my needles at the ready, knit along entry in the light. So those are my 2 finished objects. I do have 3 works in progress that have got just a little bit of work. The first is in my Whimsy Stitches bag, my Rainbow Sheep applique. I say this every time, but just in case, this is the Rainbow Unity pin from Neighborhood Fiber Company and the Yarn Ovaries pin from Shelly Can. I believe these might both be available on those websites, again linked in the show notes. So in here I have my Blueberry Waffles socks, the designer is, I believe it's Sandy Turner. I'll put it down here on the screen and it's in the show notes. And I'm just getting ready to put in the heels. I'm done with the legs. So you'll see the yarn here is pooling and flashing. I'm using Blue Moon Fiber Arts Socks That Rock Lightweight in the colorway Let Your Love Light Shine, I believe. Let's double check that, because I say it wrong every time. Here's the tag. It is, yes, Let Your Love Light Shine. Okay, so that is this pair of socks. Again, Blueberry Waffles is the free pattern on Ravelry. It's 64 stitches, which is my preferred cast on amount. And knitting these 2 at a time, obviously, cuff down on US 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter needle. And there's not a whole lot else to say. They're ready for the heels. I'll do a German short row heel because that is my favorite before going on to the foot of the sock. These are just, again, since I finished my hat, they've been what I've been working on during knit nights. It's pretty mindless. It's a 4-row repeat, 2 rows the same and then another 2 rows the same, and you just repeat those 4 rows over and over again. I did do 16 repeats of the pattern for the leg. I think I did 15 rounds for the cuff, and then I'll probably end up doing about 12 repeats of this for the foot. So that is that project. It's enjoyable. It's nice to have a kind of mindless project like that on the needles. Because my next project is not mindless, and this has animal fur all over it for my animals, but this is my matching Black Lives Matter tote from Neighborhood Fiber Company. I love it. It's a Bagoo bag that they had this printed on. It's got handles, it's got snaps, it's got the crossbody if I want it. And this project is my Kingston Tunic by Andrea Mowry. And I am knitting this as my entry for the Quiet Queers Craftalong. I'm using this gorgeous farm yarn, 100% lamb's wool, from the Foggy Bottoms Boys farm. I bought it directly from their website, and they are queer farmers in the Northern California area. I purchased other things from them as well. I really like their website. So this is my Kingston Tunic. It's bottom up. It is a paid for pattern. It's got a split rib, or split hem. It's a ribbed hem, about 4 inches of that, and then there's some detailing on this pattern. I'm enjoying this pattern. I've worked quite a bit on it in the last day or two, kind of forcing myself to work on it, not because it's not enjoyable. I cannot say enough about how soft this yarn is, but my brain hasn't been super into paying attention to things lately, so I have to kind of work at the patterning, but it's fantastic. I can't wait to wear it. It'll be a wonderful late fall winter sweater. I'm not really sure why I decided to knit an entire sweater in this light of a color, since I'm super prone to spilling on myself. So that's not the brightest, but I love it so much that I kind of don't care at this point. So that's my Quiet Queers Craftalong. That Craftalong runs until September 13th. You can follow them on their Instagram, Quiet Queers Craftalong. They have weekly giveaways. The idea here is to highlight queer makers, so designers, yarn dyers, things like that. It doesn't have to be knitting. They crochet, cross stitch, embroidery, sewing, all of those crafts are allowed in this Craftalong. So that's that. This is a long-term project. I don't expect this will be done anytime soon. I hope to have it done by the time the knit along is over. I am using the needles called for in the pattern, which I believe are size US 10 and US 9 for the ribbing. You know me, I didn't swatch. I'm not sure I'll have enough yarn for the big cowl neck that this requires, but I have no neck, so that's fine. I'll just, I'm gonna knit everything else, and then whatever I have left I'll put into the turtleneck cowl neck portion, and I'll make it as long as I can. So I'll do the body of the sweater, and use split for the front and back, do the front and back, then I'll do the sleeves to make sure those are nice and long, and then anything I have left will be done in the cowl neck, which I think is how the pattern is written anyway, if I remember correctly. I am using stitch or needle holders from Coco Knits. I find, especially for yarn that's a little bit slippery on the metal needles, they're really useful. And this has a lot of stitches on it, so I believe I'm doing the largest size of that. This pattern is not super size inclusive. I think the biggest size is a 58 inch, and you're supposed to wear it with quite a bit of positive ease. I don't intend to wear it with that much positive ease, so mine should have, if I've calculated correctly, and I get gauge, which who knows, probably 4 inches of positive ease, which is about what I would want. The pattern is written to have like 10 to 15 or something like that, and that's not my style, so that's okay with me, but it isn't super size inclusive. I know Andrea has gone in and made some of her more popular patterns that are older more size inclusive, and her new patterns are all size inclusive, but this one doesn't appear to have been done yet. So I am making it. I am hoping that you know, going forward she will make this one more size inclusive. I probably will end up sending her a quick note just saying how much I'm enjoying it, but that I would love it if it was size inclusive. So that's something that anybody can do. I mean, every designer has a contact, an email, some way to get a hold of them. They all do. And I mean, they might not respond, they might not care, but it's one little thing that you can do. Even if you aren't needing to knit a larger size garment, if you are knitting a garment and you realize that it doesn't go up past 50 or 52 inches, I feel like size inclusive goes down to at minimum 30 inches and up to at least 60-inch bust. If you are knitting something that doesn't do that, it's always in everyone's best interest to send the designer just a note and asking them if they have plans to make their garment more size inclusive. So definitely something you can do, and something I'm planning to do on this sweater as well. I have not done it yet. Hopefully we'll get that done here in the next couple weeks. So that was project number 2, whip number 2. I have one more. Sorry guys, I'm very thirsty today. Just drinking water. Okay, so this is a cast on that I started last night. It's just in my Impwear home bag. I bought this at my local yarn store, but I did link their website below for anyone who's interested. This is another pair of socks. Again, I just cast on last night. I was kind of inspired by a online friend to cast on something last night. So I am knitting a pair of socks. I haven't started the patterning yet, but my plan is to make these the Pebble socks by the Knitting Expat, Mina, Philipp. But I've just got the cuff done and 1 row of straight stockinette. I am using this beautiful yarn. This watermelon yarn, it is from Knit Circus Yarns. I've had this for a while. They do still have a version of this on their website. This is their Greatest of Ease base, which is 75-25 superwash merino nylon. This is their medium sock set, and it's 2 cakes of 150 yards a piece. So it's a total of 75 grams of yarn, which is perfect because I never use a whole 100 grams in socks, and especially if I'm knitting them for myself. The colorway is watermelon stripes. So they do have a watermelon gradient still on the website, but I've had this for several years, probably 3 years. Again, I just cast it on. I'm going to do the Pebble socks. I was looking in my library of patterns last night of things that I already had downloaded, and I had purchased Mina's Beyond Vanilla sock set. It was 4 patterns. It was a sock book. And the Pebble socks is the first one. These are all socks that are almost completely vanilla, straight stockinette, but she's added just the tiniest little bit of patterning to them to make them just a little bit one step above, hence the Beyond Vanilla. I purchased them a while ago. I've knit one other pattern, but there were 4 in there. So I decided that I would knit one of those because I already paid for it. I already have it. I've always intended to knit them. And I want this pair of socks to be almost vanilla, but just have that little bit. It's going to have a lot going on with the yarn color changes, so I didn't want anything, I didn't want cables or lace or anything like that. So that's the plan for these. Again, they were just started last night. Yeah, I think that's all I have on those. So let me stick those back in here. Drop the card. Okay. So those will probably be another good knit night. Knit as I get the other pair of socks finished. I like to have 1 or 2 pairs of socks going at all times. I have quite a few other projects on the needles. I know I've shown some that you haven't seen for a while. But that goes into a little bit of what I want to talk about next, which is my knitting mojo. I've talked a bit about this on Instagram in the last couple weeks, and I know after showing you 2 finished objects and 3 works in progress that it might not seem like my knitting mojo is gone, but I have had to really, really, really force myself to work on these projects. The last couple weeks, my knitting mojo took a hike. It's on a trip. It hasn't really wanted to come back, but I am trying to kind of knit a little bit every day to help keep that muscle memory going. I know that my knitting mojo will come back, but because I use my knitting really almost as a medication for me, it is something I do daily. It is meditative. It is truthfully part of my therapy in regards to my anxiety and my depression. When my knitting goes, those things tend to spiral. So it has been a really rough week, and I didn't podcast last week, partially because I had other things going on, but partially because I had nothing to show, because I had just finished the one Sockhead hat, but I had done nothing else. I had a full week where I didn't pick up a single needle, a single project. I didn't touch my knitting for a full week. So I've gotten past that hump where I am knitting a little bit every day. And I it's nice because I am head up the Omaha Knit Night knitting groups, the virtual knit nights that we're having right now. So I am kind of forced to knit along with my friends during that time, and that really helps because I know that I need to be working on something while we're chatting. So it's kind of keeping the mojo sort of there, but I'm hoping that it picks up a little bit more. For me, this is not the production level that I have come to expect of my knitting. So I know for some people, they'll look at all of the stuff I've just shown you that I've gotten done in the past 2 weeks and think that, well, your knitting mojo is just fine. But everybody's knitting levels are different, and I use mine so much and I knit so much every day that this level of production is definitely not normal for me. So I'm hoping to have to kind of just keep going. I know that my knitting mojo will come back. This happens all the time, probably at least once a year. That this happens. Usually comes after I've done extensive knitting. Usually it happens in January because I've spent all of December knitting holiday gifts. This time it hit in July after I spent all of June knitting my Pride socks. So it's not surprising to me that this has happened. I'm just hoping that I can get past it. I feel like it's hitting more directly and harder on me this year because of everything else that is happening in 2020. So we'll hopefully keep that going. And if your knitting mojo is gone as well, just know that it will probably come back. It almost always does. And maybe just try knitting, one row a day on a project you already have. Or like my friend, she challenged me to, let's just get something cast on. We don't have to do anything besides that. It can be something small. So I have lots of projects on the needles, but I thought maybe starting something new with really fun yarn that I've had in my stash forever might kind of kickstart it. And I really enjoyed getting those cuffs knit last night. So I'm hoping that maybe that will mean that I want to get the rest of the leg knit on those, or put the heels in my blueberry waffle socks. So that's knitting mojo. It's very personal, but it's really important. So and I hope yours comes back soon. Okay, I have a little bit of stash enhancement. I bought several bags and a little bit more yarn. The first thing we'll talk about is, let's see here. I bought these. These are bags I bought from Bertie and Poppet. Here, this is their information. They are on Etsy out of the UK. And it came with these cute little stitch markers. Love their tag. Okay, so Bertie and Poppet. So I went on the website for the second bag, but when I was on the website, I saw this beautiful lemon bag, and they both came with the wood tags. The lemon one has their boxed bottom. They're good shawl size. This one, there's the tag in there, and it's got that fun lemon or yellow print in there. So this was the second one I purchased, but I went on the website on the Etsy shop because I had seen this when I Googled Gilmore Girls products. And if you're a Gilmore Girls fan, you'll recognize all the little things on here that are Gilmore Girls related. So I really wanted to have a Gilmore Girls themed project bag for all my Gilmore Girls themed yarn. So that's what this is. I know I have other Gilmore Girls themed project bags, but I was actually looking for more Gilmore Girls yarn. I don't know why, I have plenty. But this project bag popped up and I just really loved it. So it's got, Luke's and the backpack and Rory's books and Richard's bow tie and Luke's hat and the umbrella, pizza, hamburger, coffee cups, Chinese, Pop-Tarts, pretty much everything about, there's a dragonfly on there, the Jeep, there's the coffee cup. Anyway, I love it. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. So I'll be using that soon. Then I bought some more yarn. So I bought yarn from Legacy Fiber Arts. I have never purchased their yarn before. I watched their podcast. I've been following them for a while. And I had first heard about Legacy Fiber Arts several years ago when I was watching old episodes of the Crazy Sock Lady podcast. And she had shown one of their original Halloween colorways. The first year that they dyed yarn was Hocus Pocus themed. And I have been literally stalking their site ever since to see if they ever bring that yarn back. They didn't, but this year they decided to, since it's their 5-year anniversary, to reimagine those Hocus Pocus Colorways. And so I purchased, they did 4 different colorways, the Three Sisters, and then just one called Hocus Pocus. And then they did these micro sock sets, which are 50 grams of the main color and 20 grams of the mini, which is enough for me to do a pair of socks for myself. So this one is the Hocus Pocus color. And this is all on their steel toes, which is 75-25 merino nylon. So it's 231 yards of the main color in the 50 gram skein, and then plus 20 gram mini. So that's Hocus Pocus. Then we have, this one is Winnie Sanderson. Oh, these colors, guys. I am in love. And then this one is Mary Sanderson. I love the orange with this kind of pinky purple. And finally, Sarah Sanderson. And that gold. Oh, look at those speckles on there. So I'm super happy about that. I got the whole set because why not? And I liked that the micros that they've just released, and I think they now have them for a couple of other of their sets. I liked the micro sets because, again, I don't need a full 100 grams to do a pair of socks for myself, and because they are at a little bit lower price point. So it's a good option if you're wanting to buy just one, you know, if you want to try out indie dyed yarn to knit a pair of socks. I think one of them is, I think it was $21.50 on their website. Now that's obviously before shipping, but just as an FYI. So yeah, I'm super excited to finally have some Legacy Fiber Arts in my stash, and for these colors that I've been waiting for forever. So that's, things are getting very blown out here today. Okay, and I have one more acquisition. So a few weeks ago, I was watching the Grocery Girls podcast with Jody and Tracy, and Jody always shows which bags are coming up. And I happened to catch the podcast, not live, but shortly after they posted it. And she had shown that she had some more of, in her Mrs. Brown's bags. Shop on Etsy, that she had some more of this bag, which I have been dreaming about forever. Well, since I first saw them, not forever. So this is her medium tote. It's got a drawstring closure, these beautiful canvas handles, and it's just a linen on the inside. And this one, she takes photos of yarn that she's knit up or had knit up, and then makes them into project bags. And this yarn is the Yellow Brick Road colorway from La Bien-Aimée, which I have a skein of in here. Different base. This is a different base, but that's that. Of course, I had to put my La Bien-Aimée in there. The yarn did not come, that I've had for a while. That's actually going to be my West Knits project, the West Along that the Grocery Girls are hosting. I decided to put that yarn in this bag. I thought that was cute. So this bag just came. It's weird. I posted this on Instagram yesterday, and this, I'm not sure if it's because of the beautiful bag, which I'm sure it is, or my comments about my knitting mojo, but that post has had more likes and comments than anything I posted in quite a while. So I just found that really entertaining. This is a beautifully made bag. I have one other Mrs. Brown's bag, one of her Knit Night totes, which was one of her big zippered bags that I bought several years ago. Surprisingly, since this comes from Canada, it didn't take as long as I thought it would to get here. It did take a little while, and this was a pre-order, so it didn't ship right away, but it only took about 2 weeks once it was actually shipped. So anyway, great bag. Love it. I'm super excited about that. Something I've been waiting for. Okay, so that's all of my yarny goodness. I have one podcast that I want to chat about. It is MD Quilter Knits. Her name is Beth. She's out in Maryland. She has a handful of podcasts. She's been podcasting about the same time as me, a little bit longer. She is a fantastic knitter. She does tons and tons of test knitting and sample knitting. So she's always doing the most recent. She has a stash that's way bigger than mine. So if you love yarn and project bags and want to see lots of really interesting projects and products shown off, she's definitely a podcast to check out. Beth is her name again. She has actually started joining my virtual Omaha Knit Nights, and so we've kind of chatted quite a bit. She's a sweetheart, and I really have enjoyed getting to know her. So please go over and give her podcast a look. I've linked it in the show notes, but it is MD Quilter Knits. So that is over on YouTube. And I think that wraps everything up today. This one is a long one. I'm hoping I can cut some of this out. My goodness, it'll be my longest podcast ever if I don't. So, all right, everyone have a fantastic week, and until I see you again, bye.